Hey y'all, hi. Today's video is pretty straightforward. I just want to share with you my best affordable makeup. So I went through my makeup collection and I pulled products that are from the drugstore or that are otherwise affordably priced. And they're all products that I think are really great. I love the formulas. I love the colors. I reach for these as frequently and as willingly as I reach for my high-end products. And some of these drugstore products definitely have gotten more use from me than my high-end products. If you've been watching me for a long time, then you're going to see some familiar products in here, some things that I've been using for a long time and I've talked about before. But then there are some new ones that have joined the ranks pretty recently. And I also am aware that some of you have joined the ranks pretty recently. And if you just started watching me recently and you've only watched my recent videos, there are a number of products in here that you've never seen me talk about. And I wanted to just revisit them all at once, do kind of like a drugstore favorites review, because I feel like I've been talking about a lot of high-end makeup lately. If this happens to be your absolutely first time watching me, then welcome. I'm so glad you're here. My name is Hannah. I love makeup, but I have a limited budget, so I tend to focus on quality over quantity. Sometimes I find myself paying a premium for quality, and I am willing to do that once in a while, as long as it's not too frequent. But it's great when I can find products that are high quality and don't cost too much, and that's what all of these products are. If you find yourself enjoying this video and you're not subscribed, I hope that you will subscribe. Now let's go ahead and get into the meat of the video. Okay, let's start with lip products. So these are the 7 lip products that I pulled. These aren't my only drugstore lip products or my only affordable lipsticks or lip products, but these are the 7 that when I was going through my makeup collection today, I was like, oh yeah, that's a good one. Like these are the ones that really made me feel that fire in the belly today. And some of them I've been wearing a lot lately, especially this one. This isn't actually a drugstore product. It's a tinted lip balm from the small, clean beauty brand e.l.f. Faces. And it's just awesome. It's nourishing, which is great. It feels good on my dry lips, but it looks so beautiful. It's just the tint is the perfect balance and it's not too pigmented, but it's not too sheer. I feel like I have something on my lips. I look like I'm wearing a beauty product, but it's incredibly comfortable. I mean, it's just the perfect tinted lip balm. Erin sent this to me. It came in the mail maybe 2 weeks ago, and I would say I've worn it like 10 to 12 out of the 14 days over the past 2 weeks. I really like this shade, which is called Flushed, because to me, it's like a combination of all of the tones. It looks in the tube like it would be a little bit berry toned, but when I'm wearing it, I just feel like it's not too pink, it's not too orange, it's not too red, it's not too cool toned, it's not too warm toned. It just brings my lips alive with a little bit of depth, pigment, and shine. I also quite like this shade, Blushed. Blushed is a little bit lighter, a little bit more sheer, and a little bit pinker. So it's actually probably even easier to wear. I really like Flushed because I like that flushed bitten lip look, but I've been reaching for Blushed like on absolutely no makeup days and kind of in the evenings, maybe even after I've washed my face, stuff like that. It also looks beautiful. This is another tinted product. It's the e.l.f. Sheer Slick Lipstick in the shade Golden Pear. It's a bit more pigmented than the e.l.f. Faces tinted lip balms, and it feels nice on the lips, but it doesn't feel quite as nourishing. It doesn't have that like skincare feeling. It's really beautiful though. I love wearing this when I have kind of a strong eye look on and I want to put something on my lips, but I don't want to do the absolute most. These other 4 are lipsticks, 2 of which are true HLP classics, and this is one of them. Maybelline Gone Greige. Every time I touch this lipstick or even think about it, what I think is, I'm going to wear that tomorrow. It's kind of a raisin color, like a raisiny mauve, but with a powdery gray mixed into it. It has the intrigue and grunge of gray, but it's a really wearable greige because it has a sort of like purpley brown undertone to it. I find it a very sophisticated, special, easy to wear but very striking color. I absolutely love it. And the formula is really good. Very creamy, doesn't dry out my lips, but has pretty much the look of a matte. It smells sort of like a vanilla latte. I'm not in love with the smell, but it's not offensive. It's a really, really good formula and a really good color. And this is raw chocolate. It is the matte formula. Gone Greige is in the Audacious formula and raw chocolate is in the matte formula. So they smell the same. They both feel creamy and they're both very pigmented, but the matte formula just has a little bit more of a matte finish. This is another one where the balance of tones is just so impressive. It's a rich, warm, rusty brown, and I just find it incredibly wearable. It's a very striking, in some ways an unusual color, but they've managed to make it very wearable. It's the way that I feel about both of these. This is my other favorite lipstick formula at the drugstore, the Revlon Super Lustrous Lipstick, and I like these two shades, Rum Raisin and Mink. Rum Raisin is really, again, really lovely. I like these slightly muted, slightly off tones. So it has kind of a red presence, but it's softened. It's a little bit dirty, and it just looks, again, very sophisticated. And then here's Mink. It's more brown than any of them. It is more brown even than raw chocolate. Raw chocolate is a little bit more of like that sienna, that kind of rusty color. And then Mink is just a very, very wearable soft brown. I look at these swatches and I just think, who could ask for anything more? I just love these colors and the formulas are all so good. These are such well-formulated products, all 7 of them. Let's talk about cheeks. These are the 3 cheek products that I pulled, the ones that made me feel really excited when I was looking through my collection of products. And this, I actually have been wearing a little bit more lately, but I haven't talked about it on camera in a really long time. So I'm glad that I'm getting the chance to do that. The e.l.f. Active Lip and Cheek Palette, let's do this really quick. I think that it might be discontinued, so I just want to get it out of the way. I had to put it in here and I had to mention it because it is one of my favorite products of all time. I mean, it's all of these are good that I'm talking about today, but this is like the best of the best. I don't think that it's available on the e.l.f. website right now, but I'll look around the internet. I'll see if I can find it somewhere else. And I know that sometimes products like this will continue to be available in store long after they have stopped selling them online. So I just wanted to include it in case someone's out there and hasn't heard me talk about this before and has been wondering about it. If you see it at your local drugstore and you're wondering if it's worth it, my feeling is that it's worth it. I like this formula because it's so soft and it's very pigmented like a lipstick. It's not balmy, it's not semi-sheer. I like that super pigmented and very soft and creamy formula. I feel like I can do whatever I want to do with it. I don't have to fight it. I also love the colors. I find the highlighter, oh no, I'm sorry, I accidentally swatched the blush on top of the highlighter. But I find the highlighter to be very, very shiny. You can even see it shining through there. And I find the highlighter to be very useful. As you saw, it's the most used of all of these 4 pans, and that's because I'll often reach for this palette to mix that highlighter with different blushes. I'm using that highlighter a lot. This, I believe, is still available. In fact, I think that Ulta sells it. It's the CoverGirl Clean Fresh Cream Blush in Flushed. And I like talking about this because it really surprised me. This was given to me. I didn't buy it. And I don't think I ever would have bought it because I would have thought that it was too bright for me, this sort of like strawberry colored cream blush. And it does look incredibly bright. Even as I'm blending it out, you can see that it has that nice pigment, just like the e.l.f. ones. The thing is, though, when you blend and blend, it takes on this slightly glossy aspect because there's a little bit of pearlized pigment in it, but then it sets down, it becomes totally budge-proof. And I love the sort of feverish look that it gives to my cheeks. It's a really, really beautiful and weirdly natural looking, intense flush. Because of the way this color actually ends up looking on the cheeks, and because of that slightly pearly finish, this has ended up being one of my most used drugstore products of all time, and it really surprised me. This is the Can Make Cream Cheek in number 16. I use this a lot too, and the color's great, but I think the reason that I use this so much is that the formula is very attractive. It makes me want to use it. It's sort of soft and whipped feeling, foamy, great pigment, and I like putting my brush into this pan. I like opening it and putting the brush into the pan. It calls to me. It makes me want to use it because of the way that it's packaged and the way that it applies to the cheeks. Clearly the color's great as well, though. This is a color that really works well for me. Kind of similar to this peach in the e.l.f. Active, although in practical use it has more red in it than that. I don't know how well you'll be able to tell in the swatch. It's kind of like the marriage of all of these. It's sort of like if you mix them all together, you'd get something kind of like this. And that's how it looks buffed out. You can see that when the pigment is actually sheared out, it has more brown in it than you might think to look at it. Okay, let's talk about base. So some of these products actually have been making an appearance on my channel pretty recently, especially the Wet n Wild Glass Correct, the e.l.f. Poreless Putty Primer, and this Purito CC Cream. So let's start with them. I featured the Wet n Wild Glass Correct recently in a video about products that surprised me. I just wasn't expecting it to be so good. I love the shine. It's like a really, really wet look shine, not icy at all. I love how well it color corrects my redness, and I love that it provides a smooth and sort of slightly grippy base for the products that I apply on top of it. It's just a fantastic color corrector, primer, and illuminator all in one. It's like a dream product for me. I use the e.l.f. Poreless Putty Primer on days when I want a nice smooth canvas, but I don't want too much luminosity. It provides a very, very smooth surface. You can see here where I've blended it out, where I've kind of like buffed it into my skin. You can see how sort of smooth and bright that part of my hand looks. There I buffed it out over this entire portion of my hand, and you can really see the difference. It really, really does help to blur texture. I find that it's not totally matte. They make a matte version and a luminous version, and it makes sense to me that this one's somewhere in between. It's kind of a satin finish, and I find my skin does get a bit luminous throughout the day. You can see how it is reflecting a little bit of light. So it's not adding luminosity like this, but it does give a little bit of a glow to my skin, and I like that. This surprised me. I didn't think I would hate it, but I didn't know that I would like it as much as I do. This Purito BB cream has one huge drawback, which is that it only comes in 3 shades. In fact, this is the lightest shade and it's not light enough for me, so I always have to mix it with something. I usually don't do that. I usually don't like to mess with base products that are too dark for me. I don't like to fight it. But with this one, the quality of the substance feels so good on my face that I find myself reaching for it over and over again. I find myself willing to pay the price of having to like tinker with it to make it work for me, because it's so lotiony and it feels so hydrating and it looks so beautiful on the skin, like so incredibly skin-like, but it provides pretty intense coverage. It covers everything, and I'm always surprised by how easy it is to get a nice clean skin look with it. Even though it's too dark for me, it's very neutral. It's like not too cool or too warm. If anything, it's a little bit gray. I think that's why I'm able to make it work. I wish that they would release a full range of shades though in this. It's an amazing formula. This right here on top is the lightest shade of the Sephora Best Skin Ever foundation. Underneath it is the lightest shade of the Morphe 2 Hint Hint Skin Tint. The shade is called Hint of Ivory. They're not the same color at all, and they're also not the same texture at all. You can see that the one from Sephora, the one on top, is much more cool toned. It's like a little bit of a bright pink pale shade. And Hint of Ivory, the Morphe 2 Hint Hint Skin Tint, it's a better match for me. It's more of like a neutral yellow shade. But I find myself reaching for the one from Sephora more because it's more pigmented and it's sturdier. The Morphe 2 Hint Hint Skin Tint It's not as much of a tint as, for example, the Glossier Skin Tint, and it is surprisingly good, the formula. That's why I included it in this video. It's surprisingly good. I have just realized recently that I like pigment in my base products. If I want a sheer layer, I want to take something pigmented and sheer it out. So this one from Sephora, the best skin ever, that to me is like a really, really useful drugstore-priced base product. It's very beautiful, skin-like, lasts for a long time. But this one from Morphe, I included it in this video because for what it is, like a skin tint, a drugstore-priced skin tint, it's really good. I've tried the one from ColourPop, the Pretty Fresh Hyaluronic Acid Tinted Moisturizer, and I didn't like it because I found it to be too lotiony. It was like a lotion with pigment mixed in. So I couldn't tell whether the product wanted to sink into my skin, soak into my skin, or stay on top of my skin, providing coverage. And I also found that the pigment kind of settled in my fine lines and didn't do well with texture. The formula is good. It does pretty well with all of those things: fine line, texture, dispersion of pigment. I just want more coverage than this. Okay, let's talk about eye makeup. I'm going to swatch these 3 cream products first and talk about them, and then I'll talk about the palette. I love all 3 of these. These are such pretty swatches. So this amazing one right here is this eyeshadow stick from Kiko Milano, and I just cannot get enough of this. It's in the shade 46. It's a really sturdy formula. I sometimes put this on my waterline, like as an eyeliner. I also will sometimes buff it out underneath my lash line, underneath my eyes. It also works all over the lid, smudged out, buffed out, as sort of like an oil spill eye look. It's a useful tool, and it's also a useful one and done. And, you know, it's like both very, very special and strange, and also weirdly practical. It's just it's like a unicorn. It's a product that I really love. This is something that seems simple, but that I surprise myself by reaching for over and over again. It's just a cream eyeliner from Milani. It's in the shade Picante. It's the Stay Put eyeliner, and it's just such a good formula. It always works. It's always creamy. It's effortless to apply. And I really like this color. I feel like sometimes a pretty simple or neutral eye look can become edgier, become much more special, or really make my green eyes pop better just with the addition of this surprisingly red eyeliner. And of course, the e.l.f. Putty Eye Primer. It's fantastic. It works really well. But the thing that I like about this one is the color. I like wearing this just as an eyeshadow. It looks beautiful on the lids. This one is the shade Rose, but it comes in a few different colors. I had to mention the Jungle Lights palette from Flower Beauty because the formula is just so good. Mine's not in the best shape, but I'll give you some swatches. I also did a whole review of this palette, like a single video dedicated to it. I'll try to remember to link that down below. It's super creamy. I really like these colors, especially this one on my pointer finger. It's one of my all-time favorite eyeshadows. I'm constantly swatching these next to high-end shadows, and they're always showing up those shadows. Like, I'll often pull this out and just do comparison swatches when I'm like reviewing something else. And I don't know, they just always look amazing. That creamy, crushy pigment, pretty much nothing beats it. Flower Beauty has released a second palette that I think is in this same formula in a different color story. It's the Desert Lights or Desert Something palette. I know some of you all have been asking me to review it, and I am going to try to do that. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. I don't know if the formula is exactly the same because I haven't tried it, but everything points to it being the same. I hope that it is, because this is one of the best eyeshadow formulas out there, in my opinion, especially at the drugstore. So they would be foolish not to keep making more of these in different color stories. And that's it, y'all. A roundup of some affordable products that I think are really great, some of which I use a lot. And listen, you might not need new makeup right now. You might already have a foundation that works really well for you or some cream blushes that you're trying to get through. And so just because these are great doesn't mean that you need them and that you need to rush out and get them. But if you are in the market for something like a new eyeshadow palette, or if you're looking for a combination illuminator and green color corrector or something like that, if you are on a budget and you need some go-to products that are going to work for you, I hope I was able to point you in the right direction in a couple of these cases. And it's also fun. It's fun to sit down and pull together a collection of products of which I have grown fond and go through them and let you know why they've worked for me. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I thank you so much for being here, and I really hope that you are remembering to take extra good care of yourself today so that you can be the most effective version of yourself as you do your work in the world.